This is our labor segment for our broadcast, and I am so excited. We have one of the leading women in organized labor, Miss Deborah Lane, and she is Secretary Treasurer. She's the organizer. She's everything for the Amalgamated Transit Workers Union. She's traveled all over the world representing the union, and today we just want to have a conversation with Deborah Lane could share with us some of the concerns transit workers have in today's pandemic. How has it impacted your workers?
As Dr. Wilson stated, I am the Financial Secretary, Treasurer, Organizer, and Lobbyist for Amalgamated Transit Union Local 308. We represent the rail personnel for the Chicago Transit Authority. During this pandemic, which was really a test and a testimony to all working class Americans, but for our transit workers, we have been tested and tried throughout this pandemic. But had we not been proactive with the 411, then our members wouldn't have been prepared for the 911, which was the pandemic. So we prepared them in understanding that no matter what, our job and our duties and responsibilities is to provide services to the Chicagoland area and abroad.
What kind of adjustments did you have to make as a result of COVID-19 in your protocols and your processes?
Well, we had to break down that barrier of 308, the union and the company, and we all had to come to the realization at this time we have to become one. So what we had to change inside of the system itself was making our union members, which are the employees, feel comfortable in the workplace, because hearing people passing away from this pandemic, and then the amount of people that we transport from end to end on a daily basis only brought panic to our members. You know what I'm saying? So we had to make sure, no one was prepared for this, but we had to make sure that we roped off areas. You know, we provided PPE, we provided a comfortable service for them. And we're so grateful during this time of the pandemic that Operation Push stepped in to assist us on some of these things that we needed, because we definitely were not prepared either on the CTA side or union side. But we really want to thank Governor Pritzker, Mayor Lightfoot, and our presidents of our unions for working together to make sure that our members did not get laid off during the pandemic. Because in a good sense, we still needed transit to be rolling even for emergency purposes. Although we were not labeled as frontline workers, the things that we deal with on a day-to-day puts us in that frontline perspective in moving transit to make sure that even grandma or whoever needed to be transported to the hospital but didn't want to go in an ambulance still had transit moving to take them where they needed to be.
What can people do to be supportive of the transit workers? What if you had three things, what would you ask us to do?
If I had three things, we still need to push for more transit funding. And we understand the capital side of it, you know, because we want to keep the infrastructure going. But then there are also wages. You know, we have disparity in wages on our property. We want to put that. And that's a whole nother different segment. And then we just want, which is really the top, we just want respect when our customers are riding our service. You know what I'm saying? Just to say that, you know, I've been here 30 years. In the beginning, when we first started, when I started working for transit, it was a prideful thing to wear the uniforms, you know, to be able to service. But things have kind of like gotten out of hand, and the culture and the narrative of what transportation and transit riders were supposed to be is kind of like fading out because of all of the disappropriations that are we deal with on a day-to-day basis in our workplace. And I really believe that we can bring that sense of pride back to the workplace and back to the city of Chicago for our customers if we just all just get along, for real.
Rodney King said, can we all just get along?
Oh, at this point, get along. Yeah.
Now, you have spoken at transit events all over the world. What kinds of things are have you noticed happening in other countries that would be good models for America and certainly
Well,
Chicago?
well, I was very honored to be invited to a workshop in Turkey, and I met a lot of union leaders over there. Their unions had only been in operations for 10 years, and the hawkish union, which I was invited to come and do the workshop for, had 1 million members within a 10-month. So their organizing strategy over there was just phenomenal as far as that is concerned. And then when it came to the transit, it showed the vision and the perspective that we had initially in America when it came to educating the riders on how to board and exit the buses and the trains, and how to continue to educate the workers to hold that professional perspective when we're greeting the customers, and I just was so in awe. And I just think that for us here in America, once we train, we feel that everybody got it and then we let them go. But training is a constant thing. You know what I'm saying? And things that you hear over and over and over again becomes a common practice. And I think that in America, we have let down our guards in the continuous fight to keep educating and keep pushing the needle. And I think that that's what we need to, try to work on in the workplace, and then continue to let people know their values in the workplace. That's why we're having all of these rallies and all of these strikes and, management against employees. We've lost the humanistic values of what work ethics truly have been, and it's gotten out of hand. But I think that there is a resuscitative moment that we can utilize to bring us back to that again.
Well, I think that's a powerful point. And just as we prepare to close, what advice would you tell young people? Why should they consider working for and joining a union?
The union gives you leverage. It gives you a seat at the table, not individually, but collectively, to allow these employees to know what your worth is. And it gives you a voice at the table to change the narrative in how to gain these respects. Dr. Martin Luther King fought for us to have these seats at the table to negotiate your wages and your benefits. Hence, I don't want to get out, but we were talking about the Fight for 15, which I was very grateful to be a part of. And again, I want to give a shout out to Mayor Lightfoot and Alderman Sophia King and Erica for SEIU for allowing us to have 15 minimum wage in the city of Chicago for 2020-21, not waiting for 2025, because we understand that the economical systems in Chicago or across America, not just in Chicago, but everything is expensive now and everything is going up except people wages. And in order for people to live and to live in peace and not be so frustrated, we have to pay people their worth. And again, I just really want to thank you, Dr. Wilson and Reverend Jackson and the staff for really stepping in for us all the time when we need you. You're always here for transit. And we thank you all. And we just, bless Operation Push. We hope that more people understand you all's plight and join Operation Push, because you cannot make it without the funds. You just can't. And even with the trades, I'm speaking to you now, we need to start paying per capita or paying, helping push in a way. We help push them to push others. That's what we need to do. And I just really, again, I really thank you all for always looking our way and acknowledging us in the work that we do.
And we thank you for always supporting us, for pushing memberships throughout your network of people. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all that you do to make transit move smoother.
Thank you.
And more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we're gonna talk to a young lady that's been with Push across the years. She's not that old, but she's been with us forever. Miss Regena Thomas.
American Federation of Teachers, 1.7 million members strong around the country. We find ourselves in so many different aspects of what's going on in our communities. And so we are always fighting for all of those bills, because our members, our parents, our paraprofessionals, we are not just teachers, we are nurses. We have some judges, some public employees across the spectrum. And so we fight, our fight is to be supportive of organizations such as Rainbow Push in the community and fight toward. We are fighting right now on behalf of our Hispanic community to make sure all of their issues and concerns, our Asian community, make sure that the issues that they are facing, that we are up on top of. And one of our priorities is to make sure that schools are safe for our teachers, our parents, our students, to make sure that there's adequate education, to look at what is facing the Black and brown students who do not have Wi-Fi in their communities, who do not necessarily have the necessary equipment to be online. And one of the points that we are real concerned about is all of the stress and the emotional impact that this pandemic has had on our communities, and particularly our communities of color.
We need to have a regular, at least once a month, call where you share with us the public policy initiatives that we should support. And as we are around the country, we need to know what are the top 3 educational policy issues on the national level, and then some things that we're looking at the state level and what states, so that we can get behind them. So if you could share with us, you said the president's stimulus package, what's in it for education?
Well, I mean, we're looking at the infrastructure of these schools, and labor as a whole. When you sort of build up an infrastructure, that is more jobs for communities, better schools. It enhances the environment, because then you go to new techniques and making sure that everything is adequate. And so again, it is the entire bill impacts us holistically in a whole. Again, more jobs, but more so we build more schools, more facilities in our communities that allow us to adequately teach our kids, more hospitals, more equipment that allow us to move forward in sort of that manner.
This is a time where we have to figure out where, as Reverend Jackson would always say, where is there a common ground that we can provide the best education for the people that matter the most, our children? And how do we provide them with the safety and security they need? You know, our children are now almost a year or more behind in studies based on this pandemic, and whether you're remote, hybrid, or whatever, trying to have attendance in this environment has been difficult. So what kinds of things has AFT been recommending?
I think we recommended that all the teachers be placed up on the list for the vaccines, which in most states we want to thank the leadership for making sure that happens. We want to thank our president for making sure that everyone gets vaccinated. And then we want to make sure that the facilities are safe. And so the infrastructure that was bad pre-pandemic, you add pandemic on them, they are like, totally out of order. And so if there was a problem with an HVAC system pre-pandemic, and then put children in a social distant environment and there's still not good circulation, in lies a problem. If there were overcrowding classrooms prior to pandemic, and then you divide up classrooms now to make sure that you have the adequate spacing and the like, that means more teachers. And so those are our concerns. It is not that we have issues. It is that our concern is for our students. And so many of our facilities do lunch and stuff externally. And so we want to make sure that those companies and corporations that provide the lunch have adequate facilities, that they are in fact doing those things right prior to bringing in the stuff into our schools. We want to make sure that there is the necessary distances, whether it's putting up barriers or the like between classrooms. If there was asbestos in the schools prior to pandemic, asbestos is still in the schools. We want to make sure, one of the major concerns is how are these children eating? And so we are working with organizations outside, independent organizations, to make sure that our facilities are used, because we have massive facilities to make sure every child is fed. We're working with organizations to make sure that there are internets, that Wi-Fi is available to our children. And so so we're working in partnership with many of these organizations to make sure that the very infrastructure things that the Rainbow Coalition and our allied organizations are fighting for, we are fighting for. Yes, we're fighting to make sure that there is adequate space and vaccines for our teachers, but our major concern is that our teachers are in an environment that our students can learn, and that our students are in an environment that makes them be the people that they can be in the future.
I really appreciate you, Regina. You've been with us across the years, and you've always been supportive and informative. And you look like a school teacher, got your glasses on and everything.
I know. I think the point of words is that we at the American Federation of Teachers, it is our desire to partner with our organizations. We listen. We are very active. I always say, since I worked for Reverend Jackson and now work for Randy Weingarten, our national president, that Randy's schedule is the old Jesse Jackson schedule. She is everywhere, anywhere that she needs to be. She's currently on the West Coast, Oregon, California, Washington State, Alaska, and now in New Mexico, listening to the concerns of our teachers, listening to the concerns of our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers. And so, again, our nurses, our public employees. And so I welcome the opportunity to come. But I also say, in addition to calling us, that we want to make sure that our local labor union, CTU, and the like are also part of these conversations, because they have a better grasp of what's on the ground, though we have the major model. And so I would love to also, in addition, facilitate those conversations so that you guys are aware and not always listening to what the media cast is going on, but listen firsthand to our leadership as well as our membership.
And I really welcome that. As you know, we have satellite offices in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C., New York, Detroit, Michigan, San Francisco, and Atlanta. And so if we could at least connect locally, and of course, our national headquarters here in Chicago, if we can connect with both of your counterparts around the country, that would be helpful as well. Thank you so much, ladies, for your time. I know you're busy, and we look forward to talking soon.